Hello everyone and welcome. We are here, we are live, and we are ready to go on this Monday. Well, it's an afternoon for me. It's probably mornings or evenings for everybody else. And we're starting right here. Well, why don't I talk a little bit about what's going to be going on with this episode, but some people are probably recognizing this. You've seen this before? Yeah, you've seen this before a few times. But the plan this episode is, well, at the end of the last stream last week, I was building something and realized in the intern through a discussion that was happening on the Discord, I made a mistake. And I'll get to that mistake, but it's going to require a bit of a quick redesign before I get back to that. But right now, I'm here once again with Munar 3. Now, Munar 3 has had a storied history, and the story's going to continue. But it was originally designed to go to the moon, collect materials-based science and goo science in high space and low space. There was a fuel issue with it. It didn't have enough fuel to get its capture about the moon, and instead flew by the moon in high space. So I was able to collect high space materials and goo, but with Kerbalism, this stuff needs to get back to Kerbin, and as you can see, Kerbin's a little bit of a distance away. So my original plan was to... Can I clear out a lot of this? Oh, no. Okay, I can't get rid of all these other orbits. My original plan was to do a burn here at Apoapsis, which you can see is coming up, and bring my periapsis down into Kerbin's atmosphere, but it doesn't have the fuel to do that. And then I was discouraged. I can't get back into Kerbin. I did recognize that I could do a gravity assist because last stream, I set up a maneuver to get myself another encounter with the moon. And I could get a gravity assist to redirect this back into Kerbin's atmosphere. At least I'm pretty sure I can do it. But, I mean, we're not getting to the moon in, what, 26 days? So I thought, oh, I don't want to wait that long. So instead, I just sent up a fixed sister craft to this one, the Munar 3B. It's already gone to the moon. It has collected its science, and it has returned, and all that went successfully. At least I thought it did. But I didn't think I needed this, so what I did is I redirected this probe. Can I... Oh, that's Minmus. Yeah, you're not going to be seeing Minmus for quite... Let's focus on the moon. So I redirected that probe to just smack into the moon to get rid of it, and then I wouldn't have to worry about that anymore. But over the weekend, actually it was very quickly after the last stream, someone on the Discord recognized that I made a mistake with Munar 3B when collecting the materials bay and goo. I started collecting materials bay and goo in high space about Kerbin. I didn't wait until I was in the moon's SOI. I messed up. So that probe actually only collected materials bay in low space about the moon. So the only materials bay I got in high space about the moon is the stuff that's on this thing right now. So now I actually do have some motivation to get this thing back to Kerbin. So that's what I'm going to start off with, is attempting to get this thing back to Kerbin. Anyway, that's going to be the plan. Now somebody in the YouTube comments suggested, how about you make the burn, because the burn at Apoapsis to bring your periapsis down into Kerbin's atmosphere was actually really close to getting the job done. It almost has enough fuel to do it. And then someone suggested, well, only this part needs to actually get into the atmosphere. Does the force of the decoupler, is that enough to give you that extra bit of energy to get you into Kerbin's atmosphere? And I went through it, and the answer to that question is no. There's not enough force in that decoupler to do that. So what we're going to do, that was a long preamble, but what we're going to do, I'm going to put myself focusing back on the moon. Here's the moon here. What I want to do is fiddle with this maneuver that's actually... it looks like it's just coming up, but it actually has to do a complete other orbit and then get back to here. But fiddle with this maneuver to give myself a gravity assist and get this periapsis into Kerbin's atmosphere using the moon's gravity to help me out. So I'm just going to start fiddling around. I'm a little bit... I guess this is us coming in, but it's hard to tell let's just start playing and see what happens. Okay, so if I start to pull this out, that's completely the wrong way. You can see, oh, that ejects me right out of Kerbin's sphere of influence entirely. So probably the other side of the moon will be better. Let's turn the sensitivity down. Ah, that's sort of getting the ticket done. You can see the periapsis, the resulting periapsis with Kerbin is there. Now, I need to be further away. As I get further, oh no, closer to the moon. Oh, please tell me this can work. Oh dear. Okay, a little bit. See if we can get into the equatorial plane of the moon, if that helps us a little bit here. And a little bit out. It ain't quite getting the trick done, I don't think. No. That's a little bit... let's see. A little out. Yeah, this is not... No, that's making it worse. Oh, maybe I should... Oh, shoot. Should I have been... Let's put the prograde part to 0. Actually, shouldn't have. And hitting 0 just turned on all those magnetic fields. Okay. Let's try this again. Okay. Like this. I shouldn't have been hitting prograde. I should have been hitting radial. Here comes our encounter. Okay. Actually, maybe it is better with... Oh my gosh. Let's try this all again. Okay, I want to be in the equatorial plane of the moon when I come in, because I think that will facilitate my encounter. But I realized I was giving myself prograde, and that was only adding speed to my vessel. And that's the last thing I actually want if I want to get down into Kerbin's atmosphere here. So let's see if I can start bringing... Is it this way? No, the other way. Can I get this down into Kerbin's vessel, into Kerbin's atmosphere? No, not quite. But I'm not far off. Now I don't want to buzz the moon too closely. So I want to get as close as I dare to the moon. Let's turn the sensitivity of this down as much as I can. There we go. About 13 kilometers from the moon. But what I should be able to do is do another maneuver here at periapsis with the moon. And yep, I got that maneuver here. With this little widget thing, if you have multiple maneuvers, it gives you a nice way to bounce back and forth between them. So that's nice. But I want to be on this second maneuver. And here, it should be prograde. Select that again. It should be a lot. I don't think it should be much. Yeah. A little bit of prograde. So it's going to be a couple of burns. It's not quite a free get to Kerbin for free type of deal. And I'm going to go for about a 35. Oh, I think this is looking pretty good. Let's really turn the sensitivity of this down. About there. So that's 31 meters per second here when I'm close to the moon. And my other maneuver... Sorry, that's a lie. It is 5.6 meters per second when I'm close to the moon. 31 meters per second when that's the first burn out here to get us our moon encounter in the first place. I have 139 meters per second left in the vehicle. So I got it. I got my little gravity assist from the moon, a little bit of extra little push here nearby the moon, and that will get my future periapsis into Kerbin's atmosphere. We should be able to recover the sciences aboard this thing. Unfortunately, it's in over 27 days from now. So that's the downside. It's going to take a while. So we're going to have to wait until we get it. But at least I know we can get it. So let's get back to here. Let's set up an alarm so I don't forget. Now, this was the old burn. I don't care about that no more. So we're going to delete that one. And we're going to add in a new burn. Give me about 5 minutes warning. that first of these series of burns coming up in over 15 days from now. So it'll be a little while before we get back to it. So let's get back to the Space Center. Unfortunately, it's going to be we're going to have to wait to see how this all works out, but it should work. We should be able to get back our science. We just got to wait. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what's going on today. Let's get into mission control. I want to take a look at the contracts I have active to kind of remind people of what's going on. I am in the process of mapping. I must have successfully done the altimetry scan. We still have to do the multispectral analysis scan of the moon, so that is still happening. Munar 1, that is my first probe that flew by the moon a long time ago, and I need to adjust its orbit. I'm also using the moon. I actually had already used the moon to help me out with that. It needs a tiny bitty little tweak, but that extra tweak isn't coming for 2.5 days. I suspect, though, we'll be seeing that. Maybe we'll see that today. We'll see how it goes. And then I also have these two contracts, and actually we'll be starting the process for these two today. Collect some data, science data from the surface of the moon, and this moon probes contract, which is to land in 3 different biomes on the moon. Very exciting. I'm thinking I'm going to start designing this one today. But before we get to that, I have a couple of other contracts I want to pick up. I'm almost done here. What is in this CommRelay is I want to put another relay about the moon. I have 3 relays around the moon. I want to put a 4th satellite. Ideally, actually, I end up wanting to have 6 of them. And these ones are going to go into a polar orbit, and I'll explain why in just a little bit. I'm going to grab that contract, though. And then another contract under satellites. I'm going to take advantage of this. Right here, I noticed this one. Position a satellite in a polar orbit of the moon. Might as well use this at the same time. So this is, I'm going to go into a polar orbit anyway. This is not the altitude I want, but once I achieve this, it would be pretty easy to adjust this orbit to the orbit I want for the relays. Notice that there is a longitude of the ascending node. That's telling you need to be in a specific plane. That will become really obvious when we go to make our injection out there. But it does add a little bit of an extra thing to consider. And we'll talk about that. We'll do that mission. I think we'll be doing that mission very shortly. And I also looked over here, make sure there's no silly fine print, no thermometers or goo or anything like that that needs to be aboard. It looks like a pretty normal probe. So I'm going to grab this one as well. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get ourselves... Actually, why don't we warp to sunrise? I'll do that. So we can see what the heck is going on. I'm noticing I have a notification. Oh, yes. That is my low-resolution altimetry scan of the moon is now complete. Excellent. Might be able to use that when we go to do our landers. And I do want to upgrade a couple of my buildings. I'm sort of looking at this. Number 1, the spaceplane hangar. It's still tier 1. I'm going to upgrade it mostly for the part count so I can build reasonable sized things. I've actually got a reasonable amount of cash. And then the other thing I want to upgrade is the astronaut complex, because it's still tier 1, and with a tier 1 astronaut complex, your Kerbals can't disembark anywhere except on the surface of Kerbin. And since I'm flying jets around, and I gave them parachutes, and then I realized, oh my gosh, if something went wrong, they couldn't even bail from their craft. So for 75,000 Kerb bucks, it gives me my Kerbals' ability to bail from their aircraft, which I think is a useful thing to do. They can actually make use of those parachutes. Okay, in we go. Let's get started. All right, so I'm bringing up the craft that I finished with at the end of the last stream, which is this one here, and I'll explain what the problem is. Let's get rid of the whole booster. I was all set to launch this thing at the beginning of this episode, but this guy has a problem. I like it because it's reasonably complicated. I was really kind of proud of all this, and what it was going to do is it was going to do the MITE experiment, SITE experiment, 2 different probes at 2 different altitudes, one near space, one high space, and then they were both going to move their way out and become relays. I was really excited with the whole setup of all this. What is the problem? Well, if I get into configuring the probe, which is right here, and taking a look at specifically the mite experiment, always talking about the fine print. Fine print for the mite experiment says that this only works over bodies that have an atmosphere. So doing this over the moon makes absolutely no sense. So I am going to get rid of the mite experiment. It's only going to be the site experiment. That's the only one that's worthwhile doing. With that, the site experiment is only in space, only biome specific in high space, so it makes way more sense to only send one probe, capture in low space, take the 1 hour to collect the site experiment there, go up to high space and start collecting biome, and actually go up and do a, let's form a relay with it too. So, yeah, that changes this. So in fact, I am going to, yes, we're throwing all this away. So this is kind of unfortunate. This is going to get a lot simpler. I don't need this. Let's take a look at this probe and configure it. It needs the site experiment, and that is it. I don't need that much solar generation. So as you can see, this is getting much simpler. The transmission rate for the site experiment is 3.4 kilobytes per second. I had that huge relay antenna when I was collecting both of those, but with only 3.4 kilobytes per second, the HG5 high gain antenna, which is the smallest relay antenna, has a max rate of 5.44 kilobytes per second. It can handle this transmission rate easy, so all of a sudden now there's no reason for actually let's flip these around the other way. Always the last one you guess. There we go. Batteries, I'll get to the batteries in just a little bit. So I don't need the big antenna anymore. Electricity. Also, the electrical demands are much less, and all I need now are getting back to the good old OXATs. Actually, what I'm going to do, put this here and this here. So this is becoming a lot simpler. This shouldn't take long. There we go. So now it's just going to be 6 OXATs around there. That can handle the electrical demands as well. I'm going to just send this whole probe not on any kind of a vehicle. It's just going to do the whole thing. The injection out to the moon, the capture, the various orbital things it's got to do. And in order for it to do all that, it requires, I got a budget here of 1,330 meters per second. With this little tank on here, that's not nearly enough. But if I just, let's see what happens if I slide an Oscar B under there. That is a ton. What happens if I slide just another Oscar A under there? There's no way that's right. Is that right? God, I guess it has to be right. It doesn't have to be right, but let's see if we can get some yeah, okay, so back to the Oscar. That one again. So that's going to be too much. We can take out a lot of this. Oh, that's why it was... Back to here. There was hardly any fuel in that Oscar A. That's why. Is that enough now? No. Okay. Back to the musical fuel tanks. Back to the Oscar B. Okay. What'd I say? 1330. Let's start taking out some fuel here. Wow, I don't need... Okay. Let's take these lights. I don't need this Oscar A at all. This is getting simpler by the moment. 1341 right there. Or 1541. 14. Let's just keep it full. There's nothing wrong with having some extra fuel. That looks good. Texture on the little ant engine. Oh, the textures don't change anything. Nope. Okay. It needs just 3 batteries. So there is that's it. Very, very simple. I'm gonna go through my little checklist, make sure I haven't missed anything. I've gone through, let's look at the contracts I'm interested in. The contracts are to do a relay. This is going to be actually a new contract. I'm gonna call this MunRelay number 4. Do a relay, and this orbit about the moon. We'll add that to the contract there too. MunRelay 4. So, oops, I missed one. Go back to all contracts. Which one's this one? That's the relay. Going too quick. Relay, I got that one. Position a satellite in a polar orbit. That one's got to join the party. There we go. So 2 contracts. The relay orbit, I just want to go through the fine print, make sure I don't miss anything. Nope. Oh, that's the contract for the polar orbit. It needs to have antennas. It can generate power. It can do all that. No other things. Sorry, this is the one I meant. Have to have a signal strength of at least 5 megameters. It does. So this all should be good. Let's take the contracts away. Fine print is good. I got control. Probe has been configured. I got my science. It's only the site. Electrical storage should be good. Yep. Antenna strength is good. Antenna speed is good. Data storage, it only needs 2 megabytes of data storage. It has that. Again, I worked this out in advance. Propulsion, so delta V is fine. Thrust to weight, it's fine once it's in orbit. I don't care about RCS. Don't care about thermal. Lights, it's got lights. Upgrades, how many ignitions are on this little ant engine? This has to do with Kerbalism. 77 ignitions, that's clearly going to be enough. Thrust to weight is fine. Okay. Let's close that, close that, close that, close that. Let's put a booster under this and send her on its way. So, what is the mass of this thing? It's only 524 kilograms. So let's go over to my little booster collection. This has become a lot simpler. This little guy should do it right here. Let's do a little bit of modification. Oh, I need a fairing around all this. I'm going to come out a little bit. There we are. Boop, boop. Okay. Let's check our staging. So, fairing should be on its own stage. These two should go at the same time. Fairing should be good. Put the fairing on clamshell. And we'll put the force up, put it up to 4 sides. Force up a little bit. Delta V of the booster is more than enough to get the job done. And tweak down the thrust just a little bit. There we go. I think this is it. So let's see here. Staging looks good, and let's just test that fairing deploy. Let's get rid of my little checklist. And this isn't Munar 4 anymore. This is MunRelay 4. Okay. So I'm just going to simulate a launch, and all I want to do is check. Do I have a little extra fuel? This thing will have extra fuel, but James is asking, do you have a little bit of extra fuel for future move the orbit contracts? The fact of the matter is, though, this thing is going to be a relay, which means that it is going into a very specific orbit, and I'm going to want to keep it there. So any contracts that get me to want to move it, I'm going to be ignoring anyway. Alarm clock I don't need. Let's get rid of that. Okay, I'm just going to test the fairing. Deploy. That seems good. I wanted to make sure it didn't break antennas or anything. That's it. I trust that it's going to fly, so I'm just going to end that simulation and we're going to fly it. All right, so save. I'm going to just lower this just a little bit. There. Save and launch. So the whole plan here is this is going to go to the moon. We're going into a very low orbit first, then to a very specific higher orbit, and then finally to a very specific relay orbit that I'm aiming for. But right now, this is just going to be a standard sort of ascent. Let's get our contracts so we can see them. This is Munar 4. There they are. Minimize both of these. Let's just check. This is a good time to check. Yeah, it just says reach the designated orbit. Is everything green except for the thing? I'm so paranoid about leaving stuff behind. Should be good. Like that, you know, this thing needed a thermometer or something stupid like that. MunRelay 4. There we go. We are set. Okay, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's launch. We are off. Going into our orbital insertion. Again, I'm just going to wait till I get some speed up, maybe around 50 meters per second. And we're going to knock this over towards the east. A few degrees. Lock that onto the prograde vector. Make sure the heading is 90 as we are going to the moon. So I do want to be equatorial. It's exactly on 90, so I'm pretty pleased with that. I can see the shadow of the clouds. Going through the clouds and I love watching the shadows moving across the surface there. Probably falling over a little quickly, so I'm just gonna arrest that pitching over for a bit. Okay, let's lock that back on the prograde again. Let's keep an eye on our statistics. Oh, coming up through the clouds. Coming up through the clouds. Again, probably coming over air. Let's lock it on prograde. We're good now. Just leave it locked on prograde for the rest of this. Okay, and I'm going to knock back that throttle because our apoapsis time was getting close to a minute. Just get it to the point where that time to apoapsis stops climbing. There, and I'm just going to leave it on that throttle setting, not fiddle with it too much. So basically now I'm just going to go like this until it gets to 80 kilometers on the apoapsis. But I mean, on most of these streams, you end up seeing a number of... you probably see at least one of these launches as streams, so... people that have been watching this for a while are pretty used to watching me do this. Alright. And everything is looking good. Oh, just crossed into enough for this to switch to orbit. That's fine. And hello, Purple XO. He's asking how's it going. It's going very, very well. At least for me, things are going well. I can't speak for everybody else. Okay, apoapsis is just about at 60 kilometers, so still a little bit to go. Like I said, there's plenty of fuel in this booster. We should be able to get up with fuel to spare. Okay, let's lose the fairing. There we go. Because I think the air is thin enough now. We can lose that weight. Okay, 70 kilometers on the apoapsis. And cut it at 80 there. Okay, let's time warp. Get ourselves out of the very, very top of this atmosphere. Okay, about 30 seconds to go. Let it get back onto that prograde vector. It won't be too much of a burn to finish off our circularization because our periapsis is pretty high. Don't forget, I do have limited ignitions. I only got 4 ignitions left, so I don't want to play around too much. So I'm just going to start with just a little bit of thrust. And I don't want this time to apoapsis to get away with me. So all I'm going to do is keep playing with this thrust and keep that fairly close by, but I don't want to turn the engine off. I probably started that burn a little. Can I go down a little more? There, and 60 on the periapsis. Apoapsis is getting away. Let's cut it. It's 70, 80 by 83. That's okay. Okay. Let's extend the antennas. I usually put this on an action group, but I know I did not. So I'm just going to extend them like this before I forget. And make sure that sight is waiting to go, but it won't go until we're in the moon's SOI. Put our lights on. Blinky lights up there. Put this onto the normal vector for the interest of our solar panels. I typically don't put relay satellites. Kyle Dooley asked, do you put relay satellites around Kerbin? Because I have the ground stations all on, like if I turn this on and turn on the, see how we're communicating with ground stations, I have communications all the way around. So for that reason, I don't really see a reason to put on, let's turn that all off. A reason to put relays in around Kerbin? I might. I do have a contract, I noticed, to put something into geostationary orbit that I could grab. So I might just do it just to do it, but I don't think there's a practical reason why I need to do it. Okay, let's set the moon as a target. Let's get out there. I'm going to get in the habit of 8:55. Boom. Where is that moon encounter? There it was. It was there, and then it went right by again. Maybe a little bit more. Why is this being such... Ah! I'm back. There. There it is. That's what I was looking for. So again, we're going for a polar orbit. Here's our orbit that we're going to go for, and we do have to match the plane of that orbit, so I'll show you how to do that. Because there is an extra little bit of things there we got to consider, but our first goal is simply to smack the moon dead center. Go a little past, and we'll give a little retrograde. Just to save a little bit of fuel, though I don't think fuel is going to be much of an issue. Okay, a little bit more prograde. So what, there, that's hitting it pretty close to the middle. So, I really want to avoid doing some big, giant inclination change around here. Like if I went and came, this is, by the way, showing you your trajectory coming into the moon at the time you're crossing into the moon's SOI. So this angle here is the plane change I would have to make if I were to do the injection as it's standing right now. I could do that, but I would rather avoid having to do that. And it's easy to avoid doing that. All you have to do is start hopping ahead orbits here. So I'm going to push the go ahead and orbit button. And then I'm going to adjust the timing again. And this angle, I'm not sure if it got a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller. It should have done one of those two things. I'm going to turn the time up a bit too. So I'm going to head a few orbits so that we can 1, 2, 3, 4 orbits. Now let's adjust the timing again. A little bit more prograde. And you can see how the angle's coming down smaller. And the reason why that's happening is because we're doing this burn later and later. Right now this burn's not coming up for another, what is that, 3 hours and 7 minutes. And so the moon's having a chance to get her going around the orbit a little bit more. And as the moon goes around its orbit, this angle's just going to keep changing on me. So all I have to do is keep hopping ahead orbits. Let's do that again. Until I'm as close as I can be. Just a little bit more prograde. Oh my gosh, I don't really... I'm not sure I see a point of... Should I try one more orbit? I'm not sure there was a point to that. I might now just be the same amount on the... I'm even further on the other side, so go back in orbit. So I had it right there. So I will have to make a teeny tiny itsy bitsy little plane change, but it won't be much. And yeah, that's the way to match a specific plane if you need to. Now the other thing I need to pay attention to, well actually we can do this burn right now. We'll have to do a correction obviously because I don't want to hit the moon, but we'll get to that when we get to that. So right now we gotta go ahead and time 4 hours and 42 minutes. Will this go quick out here? I should pay attention to alarm clock too. Okay, Munar 1's not happening for another 2 days. So let's just hit the warp button. How long is this going to take? Oh, it's not going to take too long. Not worth the going back to the Space Center. I like that we can time warp a lot more quickly than we used to be able to. All right, there we are. Put that onto here to prograde, and then we'll get onto that. Actually, I'm going to reduce. Let's reduce this throttle just a little bit because I think my starting thrust to weight is a little berserk. That way, it doesn't have to be so ridiculous. That's better, I think. Oh no, that was a bad idea because it didn't adjust the burn time to compensate for that. So I thought they would adjust this on the fly, but it doesn't. So it's going to have a lot of thrust at the start of this. If I adjusted the thrust before I made the maneuver, it probably would have been fine, but I didn't think about it at that time. Okay, so we're going to get a lot of thrust right at the beginning. It's not a big deal, it just is a little silly. Boom. And we're going to burn through that stage very quick. And now we're on our little ant engine, which is significantly less thrust. But it will get the job done. Let's keep that on the maneuver node. Here, let's close that. I do like my little probes. Hello, right back at you, Limeland. Glad you can join us. Still, 350 meters per second. I guess I could have put a bigger engine on this thing. But I am a bit of an addict when it comes to little tiny engines, even with their tiny little thrust-to-weight ratios. Or I could have put on 2 ants. That would have been another option. But I did kind of slap this together rather quickly, didn't I? I'm just looking at your comment there, James, but I'm also paying attention to my maneuver, so I'll let's switch out to the moon. I'll finish this off and then take a look at that. All right, so again, I'm aiming right now just to hit the moon right in the center there. Reducing throttle in just a little bit. Reducing that throttle. Here it comes. And again, I'd rather not restart the engine because I have limited ignition, so I think this is a better plan. There we go. Good enough. All right, so the next step in this is to set up a correction burn out here. Now, the thing, you might think because I'm going in a polar orbit, it doesn't matter whether I come to the north of the moon or the south of the moon, but it certainly does matter because if we pay attention to our orbit here, you can see it's going around this way. So as I come into the moon's SOI, I definitely want to be going in the same direction as this, or else I'll end up having to make a 180-degree plane change. I probably don't have the fuel for that. So I need to come to the south of the moon here. So let's just start burning a bit to the south. Like that. And let's see if we can play around a bit with the time to find the sort of best spot. It really doesn't matter, does it? No, we're going to go with that. And I'm not interested in going into this orbit right away because I do want to collect all the near space site experiment stuff. So I'm going to start by going into a 40 by 40 orbit. And in fact, actually, we're going to spend some time. I'm just realizing we're going to spend some time in that orbit. So we'll get to this outer orbit at some point in the future. There we go. And I'm just picking 40 kind of arbitrarily. Now, can I adjust my plane much from here, or would that be better? No. Just keep it as polar as I can. We'll have to do a bit of a plane change when we come in. That's good for now. I think so. I think so. All right, so let's orient this for the solar panels. Getting orbitally challenged. Why is this? Why am I having a hard time with it? Oh, is it on a weird... No, no, no. Control from here. I'm not 100% sure. It feels back. Everything feels backwards. I don't know what. Okay, whatever. I'm sure it's fine. There we go. Off we go. Okay. The site in low is not biome specific. Exactly right, James. It's not. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into low space first. It takes 1 hour to collect that low space science, and then we're going to go up to high space where I'm going to leave it to collect all the high space science. But by then it'll be in its relay orbit. So I think my view is just weird. I think that's all that's messing me up. There we go. So absolutely not. We're not going to spend a lot of time in this low space. Just enough to collect the site in low space, and then that's going to be it. Okay, so... Rule 1 is, let's do this burn. I don't have to wait for this to get to 0. So, yeah, let's do this. Yeah, there's no reason for me to wait. There we go. Can reduce the thrust. And actually, this isn't really super critical to get this exactly right. There we are. We are on our way to the moon. Nicey nice. You can stay upside down like that. Let's get ourselves to the moon. And we will warp to here. I'm going to go into a complete 40 by 40 orbit here, completely in low space all the way around. The reason for that is that it takes an hour to collect all the low space science. That's how long the site experiment takes to run. And so I want to, I can say this, I want to, actually I got an idea. Let's add a maneuver here. Maybe I won't go quite down to 40 by 40 now that I'm thinking about it. What I'm going to do, because I do need to make a bit of a plane change. Show you what I mean. I'm just going to leave. I do have to make a slight plane change Well, no, let's go 40 by 40. It's fine. I'm making my life too complicated. So I'm going to go into a 40 by 40 orbit. We're going to collect all the science. That was a little too much, clearly. And then we're going to go up to this target orbit here. Just going to get this right onto that periapsis. Dancing around it there a little bit. Okay, a little bit. Out like that. More than good enough. Okay. So we actually should be, yes, we're already collecting some high space data. You can see how it is biome specific. But we won't be over each biome for very long, so it'll transmit. This data should not be collecting in the hard drive at all. Is it? Should be. Yeah, I'm at 100% hard drive space. It should be transmitting it pretty much as quickly as it collects it. Okay, let's get down there. Is this still on full? It is, so let's get down there and do this. Hello, Moon, we're coming for you. Oh, we just transmitted 10 credits of science. But what I want to do right now is just get this capture. We should be collecting now near space. Space low. But it takes an hour to collect all that. So we're going to spend a little bit of time in this orbit and then we'll go and boost our orbit. And I noticed... Oh, yes, of course. Oh, I don't know what that contract is now that I'm looking at it. I'll get to that in just a second. I'm a little bit confused, but first deal with this burn. Yeah, it's not these contracts. Maybe it's... Is it still the... Okay. I'm going to shut up now. I'm guessing too much. I got to concentrate on this. Okay, 2, 1, and go. Again, a little ant engine working away. Working away to get our capture. Shouldn't take this, the parameters for the relay orbit is simply to get the orbit below 1,100 kilometers. So it should not take much to get that one green. There, it just went as I was talking about it. But I want to do better than that. So that's this contract done. Woohoo! One down. That's such an easy one. And these relay contracts keep coming up, so you can just keep putting in as many relays as you want. I'm realizing, here, slowing down a bit. All that's important is this is low space all the way around. The rest really doesn't matter, but because of how particular I tend to be about these things, I am going to go 40 by 40. There we go. Good, good, good. Good, good, good. Okay, let's turn this into its upright... Oh, I'm still locked on. Still locked on prograde. Okay, up we go. Retro... I'm still locked on retrograde. Come on, there we are. Okay, let's just get this. We get it on that north circle. Then I know that's the solar panels will have maximum exposure that they can get. Okay, so now we're collecting this site experiment stuff, but it's going to take about an hour. Why don't we just put this here? You can see it's got 56 minutes and 30 seconds left. What are the notifications popping up here? There we go. I got notifications. Conduct a multispectral scan of the moon. That's now done. Excellent. That will really help once we go to do our landings. Place a relay. Got that contract. And we got a new Strategies massive scale launches 2. So that is particularly great. One other thing. Let's put this on... free. There we are. And we'll watch this go around the moon here. As we're collecting this, I do have a strategy in play which should be getting me money every time I collect science from a new biome. So every time that science gets transmitted from a biome I've not been in before, I should be getting money. And since I have not collected any biome-specific science around the moon, this little satellite, once I put it into high space where the site experiment is biome-specific, should generate me a fair amount of income. I am looking forward to it. All right, let's time warp a little quicker. Got about 10 minutes to go. And then we have all of that site. There it is. Site experiment is now complete. I should be... Okay. So we now have collected all the low space site experimenty stuff. The next phase in this is to match this orbit. Now I can click on either the descending or ascending node and I can see I'm 5 degrees off. So I do have to fix that inclination, but the best place for me to do that is to first burn out here so that my apoapsis is right at the, in this case, only because it's coming up first, at the ascending node of my target orbit. I can see I need to come a little bit one way. Right there. And a little bit more. And then that, whoops. Oh, I'm hitting the time. Don't hit the time, silly. Retrograde. Just want to touch the orbit there. I think that looks pretty good. I'm getting too finicky again. What else is new? There we go. And then when we go to do the orbital insertion here at apoapsis, we'll also fix this little bit of an inclination difference at the same time. Combining those two burns together saves you fuel. It's nice to combine burns when you can. Okay, so this burn's coming up in just 4 minutes. So let's do that. And this is a prograde burn. I think it's such a short burn. I think I'm just going to leave it locked on the prograde vector. And I think as well I'll probably watch it from here so I can see what's going on. A little closer. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go. Again, I just want that apoapsis just to touch the target orbit there. Reduce this. Slow. Boom. And I was doing that not watching the maneuver node, but really watching right here. But I think that's looking pretty good to me. And then finally now we just need to add a burn here. This is going to be obviously a prograde burn. And this burn is here to match this whole orbit. Now I do need to bring it, I can see a little bit this way. Whoop, a little bit the other way. To match planes. I can see I need to go a little higher. A little more prograde. Let's just look at these orbital parameters just one more time. There is a longitude of the ascending node which tells you where it is you cross the equator, but as long as I match the plane of this orbit, I'll match that. There is no argument to the periapsis, so I do not have to match where this periapsis and apoapsis are. I just have to match the numbers that I see here. So, actually, I think I still probably do. Yeah, I do have to match the Yeah, I'm gonna need some radialness. Whoops, gotta select the node. With some radialness, we can move that apoapsis and periapsis around. There we go, see? A little more here. Okay, let's just watch apoapsis. Apoapsis needs to be 270, periapsis need to be 231. So I need... As I click that radial one, apoapsis is coming down and periapsis is going up. But now they're both too small, so that tells me I need more prograde. A little more prograde. That should be about right. Let's play around again with this. 270 on the apoapsis, 231. A little bit more prograde. Should be very close now. Actually overdid it. A little retrograde. 231 on the periapsis. I should know that by now. There. I'm sure that's close enough. Oh, and they are right where they are supposed to be too. I was just watching the numbers here, but I can see now. What I should have done when I did the burn here, I should have put my apoapsis at my target apoapsis number and just didn't pay attention to the orbit, but that should be okay. I can see the inclination is going to be fine, so this, I'm sure it's good enough to match these orbital parameters that we see. Again, I want to make sure I got some good solar exposure. Always find that north circle and just start following around until my probe is perpendicular to the galaxy map, and then I know I'm in a good spot. That's pretty with the Kerbin right there. Okay, let's get out to that maneuver. That should finish off this contract. And then it's time to put this guy into its final relay orbit. I should have enough fuel for all of it. Actually, I should have enough fuel easy. Went up nice and high. Okay, on to... I guess this will be have a lot going on, yeah. This has some prograde, some radial, some normal, so the vector is way out here. Lot going on with this burn. We can match all these orbital parameters. Okay, time warp a little bit closer. It's just a 12-second burn. And when I'm doing this, I'm going to not really pay too much attention to the maneuver node and really just wait for these parameters to go green. As soon as those parameters go green, I'm going to stop. 2 and go. Just get ready to reduce throttle. So you don't have to match all that stuff perfectly. Okay, reduce the throttle and just wait for those to go green. Go green, you stinkers. Oh, I think I missed it by a bit. Shoot. Oh, they went green. I'm not sure what quite happened there, but it gave it to me. I thought I missed it for a sec because I saw the maneuver node starting to come back up again. But it's there. Okay, that's good. So we got that polar parameter contract one done. Those are all the required contracts. And now it's relay time. And that to me is very exciting. I'm a big fan of relays. So just to remind people kind of where we're at on the relay front around the moon here, as I position this guy once again, let's turn on all of our relay satellites we got. They are this one. Okay, so I have 3 relays all the way in this orbit here, and they're pretty equally spaced. I can put on our communication lines. There they all are, making an equilateral triangle. And you might be wondering, why bother... If I turn this off, why bother adding in a 4th relay? These 3 seem to have it covered, but well, that's not quite true. If you land something at either the North Pole or the South Pole, if you kind of picture it drawing a line, like imagine there's a satellite here, right? And imagine that communication line kind of going towards the planet. You see, if you're right at the surface on the North Pole, the moon itself will block your communication path to the satellites here that are going around on the equator. I actually did a little bit of trigonometry, a little bit of simple math, and figured out that if I was north of a latitude of 7 degrees north or south of a latitude of 70 degrees south, I potentially could lose communication with these guys. Now, to be honest, I think KSP is fairly generous with, they actually have the communication lines going through the surface a little bit, but I thought the way to fix that would be to put relays in a polar orbit so that, see if we can see it kind of happening here. So that, you know, worst comes to worst, if I was, say, at the South Pole, I could communicate with this guy, and even if this guy was, actually, this guy would have to be in a position to communicate with Kerbin. I was thinking I would need to put 3 in around here, but these polar orbit ones would always be, at least when they're at the, below the North Pole or, sorry, above the South Pole or above the North Pole, I think you would have a view with Kerbin guaranteed, regardless of the orientation of this orbit. So here's what I'm going to think I will do, is I got one relay. At some point in the future, I'll put in a second relay that is exactly opposite. Does that make sense? No, because they could be down at the equators and then I get no coverage. No. So I'll put 3 relays in an orbit. I'm getting to what I want to talk about. Eventually, I'll put 3 relays in this orbit, and then with 3 relays in an equatorial orbit, 3 relays in a polar orbit, I got the entire surface of the moon covered. I should anyway. So, what I want to do to finish this off, there's no contract, but I do have a very specific orbit that these guys are in. It's got a semi-major axis of 377.35 kilometers. I want to match that. So that's what I'm going to do right now. So I'm just going to push this prograde. This shouldn't be much of a burn. I should be able to do this just by looking at the numbers. I want to move this apoapsis up to 377.35. So this shouldn't be much of a burn. 377.35 is what I'm shooting for. So I just passed 300. And again, I do have limited ignition, so the ants have a lot. So I'm trying not to cut the engine. I'm trying just to play with the throttle, the amount of throttle more than anything else. You know, I could put on the Sensi. Oh, I went too far. I was talking too much and I went too far. Let's spin around retrograde. Still have 71 ignitions. I need to be less concerned about this. Okay, 377.35. There we go, 377.334. That's close enough. Okay, let's get those solar panels some nice exposure. And then, what I want to do is circularize up here at apoapsis. Like that. And to be honest, what's more important than getting an exact circle is to get the period right. These satellites are all in orbits with a period of 3 hours, right down to the second. So notice that the game is giving me a projected period here, 3 hours, 1 minute, and 12 seconds. So I actually went a little too far. I want that to be 3 hours, 0 minutes, and 0 seconds. Oh, wow. Let's go down to the least amount of sensitivity I got. There we go. And that is... Let's see here. I play with the... Oh, I mean, I want to make a go at it looking kind of like a circle. So let's... Oh, what am I... No. Sorry. Started playing with the radial out of habit. Radial should be 0. Every time I hit 0, I put on the magnetic fields. 0 off. Back to this. I should be able to adjust with the timing, silly Billy. That's going the wrong way. I want this an approximation of a circle. There we go. That's close to us. Very, very close to a circle. And with a period of 3 hours, 0 minutes, and 0 seconds. Yeah, I know you can scroll with the... I play around with different ways of setting up these maneuvers. Getting used to different things. You can scroll with the mouse on the little pull tabs, and that's a really nice way to do it too. Oh, I think... Oh, Munar 1! Munar 1! Okay, okay, this burns an hour away, so let's jump out to Munar 1. Munar 1. This is another contract. Excellent. Alarm clock is telling me that Munar 1 is less than 5 minutes away, and this is a contract to go into a very specific orbit. Munar 1's a very old probe that originally flew by the moon, and then it flew by the moon again, that put it into this blue orbit, and I used the moon to try and get really close to the orange orbit, which is my target. And you can see I did a pretty good job. So now I got this 26 meter per second burn just to kind of finish off the job that I couldn't quite do with just the moon. Yeah, let's reduce... Oh, the throttle's already really far down. Okay, so let's warp to the maneuver. We should be way... Where's Kerbin? There's Kerbin. There's the moon. Way out in this orbit. Okay. Get ourselves a little closer to the burn. This is turning into an orbital maneuvering palooza episode. Put that on the maneuver node. Okay, get ready. I'm just going to go half throttle here. We'll start a few seconds early. Go to half throttle. Again, I'm looking for... Oh, whoa! I've already reached the designated orbital parameters. I was close enough just with hardly doing anything. So I just got to wait for the 10 seconds for this to go green. Green! That contract's done. Awesome! So we'll leave you alone, Munar 1. You can go back to your regularly scheduled program of aimlessly going around... aimlessly in this big silly orbit around Kerbin that's serving no purpose at all. I should have actually quite a lot. Yeah, this is dead. This is done. Let's delete that contract. Or delete that mission. And this mission is done. Delete that mission. We're banging these off. And this mission's done. Delete that mission. Okay. I said delete that mission. There we go. Get rid of that. Let's go back to MunRelay number 4 and finish that off. Go to the vessel. You can create a maneuver node exactly at PE with the mouse. Are you sure there, Rob Woods? I would love if somebody knows that trick of exactly getting the maneuver node exactly on something. That'd be awesome. Playing with the throttle for this burn here. There we go. Okay, let's get to this maneuver. Where's the moon? There's the moon down there. Rob Woods says you can get a burn exactly on periapsis. I wasn't aware of that. Whoops, this is prograde. Okay. Look at the orbital parameters here. Get ourselves a little closer. And again, what I really am looking at more than the maneuver node, more than my apoapsis, periapsis, is this period. I want this period to be exactly 3 hours. That's the main thing I'm looking at. So that way when I bring in another satellite and put it in this orbit, it'll be easy for me to kind of match it, get it into the phase I want it to be in if I have a period that I can remember easily. Okay, I'm starting to burn, going to about half throttle because it's not much of a burn. Then we're going to really reduce our throttle as we get close here. Start reducing that throttle. Okay, let's reduce the throttle limiter down here to teensy weensy. I don't care about the maneuver anymore. And I'm just watching those seconds click up. We just passed 2 hours, 59 minutes, and 30 seconds. 40 seconds. 50 seconds. Reduce throttle again. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. There we go. 3 hours, 0 minutes, 0 seconds. That is what I was shooting for. Let's get this in a nice orientation for the solar panels. There we go. Let's take a look at how this looks. So there's our relays. Nicey nice. And that's really going to help with coverage of the poles at the north and the south, should I ever decide to go there. And in some future date, I will stick 2 more other relays in this same orbit. But that I have a period of 3 hours. It's a nice, easy number for me to remember, so it'll be easy for me to match it in the future. Okay, that is a lot of stuff kind of done. So let's get ourselves back to the Space Center. And what I want to do now is I want to build something. I'm not convinced I will launch anything else this episode, but I do want to build something. I noticed here I'm at 99.5 science. That is super duper exciting. So I'm going to go into research and development. And I've already pre-eyed what I want. And it's this one, simple command modules. It gives me the Mark 1 command pod and the KV-1 onion reentry module, both with a crew capacity of 1, because I want to start getting into putting Kerbals in space very, very soon. But before I get to that, there's one more thing I need to accomplish around the moon. And it has to do with... Well, let's get this out here. If I open up my contracts. Oh, man, I have been killing these contracts. There's only 2 left here. This Moon Probes contract. So this Moon Probes contract is to land probes in 3 different biomes on the moon. It's a contract that's been giving me money bonuses for achieving milestones around the moon, but punishing me when I get milestones around other bodies. So that's why I've been hesitant to start putting Kerbals in space, because I know that I'll lose money on, or not lose money, but not get very much money on those milestones. But once I land in 3 different biomes on the moon, oh, notice one's green? Oh no, I think I might only have to do 2. I did do a moon impactor. I never thought I think it might have counted that. Oh, a few streams ago I crashed into the moon on purpose, but I'm noticing one of the biomes is green. Oh, that's kind of funny. Anyway, maybe we only need to land in 2. I don't know. But basically, this is the contract I want to do. So this is going to be assigned to a new mission, and this mission is going to be the new Munar 4. There we go, create a mission. And I also have this collect science data from the surface of the moon. We'll obviously be doing that at the same time, so we'll add that to the same mission. And I'll switch to that mission even though those are my only 2 contracts. So what I want to do is build some landers. And so what I'm thinking about, well, I'm thinking of building 1 probe with 2 landers that will land in 2 different biomes. And then I was going to send a 3rd probe that has the materials bay and goo on it to land in a 3rd biome, but then come back to Kerbin, but that would be a separate mission. But now I'm not so sure I have to do that because I think I already got in the green. Well, we'll see. Let's build the 2 probe things. So what we need to do is build ourselves a lander. So I'm going to put my checklist way over here to the side. Actually, let's minimize it for now. And I don't think we need to look at the contracts. Landing on the moon is easy to understand. Okay, so we'll start with our handy-dandy Hex probe core. I just realized I didn't get the science that I said I was going to get. Didn't I say I had 99 science and I was eyeing this one and I don't think I ever pushed the collect? No, I didn't. What a dope. I want this one. Simple command pods. Grab it. What's wrong with me? Okay, now let's get in here and start building something. All right, so we got ourselves, oh, I can see I got scrubbers now in my pod and monoprop oxygen fuel cells. Okay, yeah, these are all good things for trying to keep my Kerbals alive, but one thing at a time. You're going to be silver. I don't know why. I was in a silvery mood. So I want to land something. I want to build something, and its sole job is to land on the moon, and then it's not going to do anything else. Let's start adding on the science. So if we configure this, configure the unmanned experiments. I have not been down to the surface of the moon with any science, so both the telemetry report and the 2-hot thermometer are good to go. I want both of those, so let's put them both so that they will operate as soon as they are willing to do. And the thing to notice too is on the surface for both of these, they are biome specific. So that's good. I can also do, if I go to my Sciencey tab here, I can do a radiation scan using this Kerbalism Geiger counter. Put that guy on waiting. That is also, by the way, biome specific on the surface. I can also do, only one other thing, and that is the barometer doesn't work in a vacuum with Kerbalism, so there's no sense going there. And again, things like the Science Junior, I have to bring them back. I'll do that with a future mission. But what was I looking at? Oh, the double C seismic accelerometer. Absolutely. That is also an experiment I can do. We'll put that one on waiting. Now, one thing with the double C seismic accelerometer, with Kerbalism, experiments take time, and the time it takes to do a seismic scan is 14 days, 4 hours. So it's not something you want to do when you've got Kerbals around and wait that long. I mean, unless you've built a base or something like that. So I think this is an ideal science experiment to put on a probe. But you gotta have a probe that can run this experiment for 14 days, 4 hours, keeping in mind that a Munar day is 6 days. So that means 3 hours of daylight, 3 hours of night. So you want it to be able to run through those 3 hours of night. Thankfully, it only consumes 0.456 electric charges per minute. So it actually is not very, electrical demanding. So you only need a handful of batteries in order to get it through the night. So that is a good thing. And speaking of which, I figured out I need about 500 units of electric charge for this. So let's see, how are we gonna build this guy? Let's put, actually, let's see, how small can I build this? I like building things small. Let's start again with the old Oscar B with an ant on the bottom. How much delta V does that give me? That gives me way too much delta V. I only need about 750 meters per second of delta V, I figure, to land on the moon. That's what I'm gonna budget. 847, that should be good. It's going to need some landing legs. I do have the micro landing struts. I actually have 2 sets of them. One set is, I believe, Restock made them so they're less bouncy. But I don't know which are which. Yes, it's this one, are less bouncy. I can see that the suspension has been fiddled with, so I'm going to use these less bouncy ones. There we go. We'll deal with these later. It's weird to me how bouncy the stock are. That brings the fuel down too much, so I guess I should have gone with the bigger Oscar, like so. It needs, I would say, about another 400 units of electric charge. So let's add that. Probably, well, I could put in, no, let's keep it small. I can just put on 4 of these. That'll do her. It's always weird when you go part 3-way symmetry and part 4-way symmetry, but I don't see a reason. I know what I'll do. I'll put on radial, pressing R, and put 2 of them sort of around that strut like that, and then copy that and put 2 of them balancing on that side. It's not quite balanced, I can tell. Oh, they might end up on the struts even worse. A little closer. And this way. There. Nope, that's not balanced. That looks balanced. That looks good. Okay. So lots and lots of fuel. I'll probably be taking fuel out. Electric charge. I don't need a lot of electric charge. What I think I shall do is put on 4-way symmetry here. Oh, I'm still on radial. 4-way symmetry. Tilt these on about a 45-degree angle, because this thing will be sitting on the surface. And down local. We'll slide these up. Make kind of like a... Oh, that's not very... Just noticing. Ah! Put that back on. Try that again. Rotate again these to about 45 degrees. Don't be like this. Then go here and slide them up. I'm really having issues with this one. I don't know why. There we go. Up we go. I guess that's all right. Let's see. Should I bring the landing legs maybe down? Of course, I'm trying to avoid all kinds of part clipping issues. Is really all this is about. If I retract those. What if I took these and rotated them? Would that look better? No, that's worse. Well, actually, that's not bad. Oh, these are on... I went to 4-way. 3-way symmetry. There's no reason to have more than 3 landing legs with this. There! I can live with that. I can live with that. And... Does that look 45 degree-ish? Shish. I think so. Okay, I can live with that. And it needs communication, and a single communitron will be perfectly adequate for that. There we go. And I'm just going to go through. I've written down what my requirements are. 750 meters per second. I'm sure... Ooh, thrust to weight's pretty low. Maybe I'm better off. I know I'm going to the moon. But when I do a powered landing, I like to have a thrust to weight. That's a lot. Oh my gosh. I like to have a thrust to weight a little bit more than 1. It's not that it's completely necessary when coming up to the moon to have that much thrust to weight ratio. But it's what I'm used to, and I find that if I have a thrust to weight ratio that I'm not used to, that I won't slow down fast enough, and then I crash. Okay, that's a thrust to weight of 1.28 with 3 ant engines like that. That should be good. So that's gonna make... I got an idea again. Lots of ideas. I'm gonna move this antenna. You'll see I got a stunning plan here. I'm gonna move this antenna up. I want to keep that node on the top there free. So I'm just putting the antenna to the side. I'm gonna move these solar panels again. Maybe I'm getting a little bit too picky. Is it completely obvious I don't have a monstrously thought out plan. What if get these solar panels again? Oxats, there. Okay, take all this science off. It's in the way right now. Okay. Maybe 6-way symmetry would be better. For the sole reason... maybe not. Okay, you know what? I'm giving up on... I'm going 4-way symmetry with the legs because I'm just having too much battles with having different symmetry groups going on such a small thing. And then now I should be able to get easily 4-way symmetry on here. $45. All right. Drag these up. All right. I've decided I'm living with that. And then 4-way symmetry on these batteries. What I'll do is I'll come up a bit. It looks like the batteries are tucked under the solar panel and they're providing some... There we go. Okay. Let's get the science back on somewhere. I'm sure I can find a hidey spot for the science. Maybe. That's a little bit too high. There's our accelerometer. It's waiting, and I lost my, there's my radiation scan. And again, these batteries should be 4-way symmetry. I think I can live with that. All right, so we've got 1,600 meters per second of delta V. That is a ton. So we can start taking out a lot of fuel here. There's 906. That should be landing easy. I think, okay, let's start going through the checklist. So contract fine print I looked at, control it's got. I configured the probe that's got the science it needs. It's got power generation. It's got electrical storage. It has antenna strength and instead of speed. That really is enough. Oh, I'm going to move that so it's not in the solar panel. Data storage. I told myself I only need about 2 megabytes of data storage, and that's what it's got, so that's fine. Propulsion is fine. RCS, it doesn't need parachutes. It doesn't need thermal protection. It doesn't need lights. Oh my golly gumps, lights. Of course it needs lights. How can I forget lights? I'm going to stick some lights, just 2 of them, right there. And we're going to make these blinky lights. We're going to make them sort of a ambery color. Put the blink on. Hide them in there a bit. There we go. Lights taken care of. Engine upgrade should be fine because I think this has a 77 ignitions. That's easily not. Thrust to weight is good. Thrust to weight is in fact very good. Okay, fairing and staging. Haven't gotten to that part yet. So, oh wait, I want to move this antenna. All right, and let's retract this. Okay, so this is one probe. So what I want to do is mount this on top of another probe. And I realized as soon as I put 3 engines down here that I was going to have some interesting times putting a decoupler on that. If I had some small structural parts, I would use those, but I don't have them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my decoupler on the top, upside down. And then we're going to take this whole thing and turn it upside down. And then the other part of the probe's going to stick on underneath that. That's my idea. It's my idea. You're not allowed to steal it. So let's get a fairing. Let's see how if we can make this work. So I'm going to take a fairing. I'm going to stick that under there. I'm going to turn on those interstage nodes. I'm going to make the fairing the root part, just temporarily. I don't care about the actual fairing part. Then I'm going to grab my decoupler. Oh, shoot. It doesn't like being upside down. The fairing should be the root part. There we go. There it goes. Grab that decoupler, and I'm going to stick that right there so it's on a little base. I'm going to play with that antenna. I don't like the way it is. But now I got something that I can construct a fairing around, and when I'm ready to release this, let's turn down this force percentage like to teeny weeny so that I can boot this. I can let that go. It doesn't matter that it's going up upside down. I mean, that's perfectly fine. And what we're going to do is put in another hex probe right there. Make use silver 2 and make this hex probe the root part. And now we'll start building a second lander to go under this. I don't see why this won't work. I think it's going to look fine. Let's move this antenna. So when that antenna extends, does it get into the way of anything? No, I don't think so. Hack the antenna. There we are. Okay. Yeah, why not? All right, so what I want to basically do is take this second one and basically build just a second lander on it. It's going to have the same science. Thermometer. Oh, it doesn't like the fact that I already have. So it's going to have a thermometer and a telemetry scan on it. It's going to have the same... You know what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to mount this a little bit higher so I can get more junk underneath. There we go. Let's turn off those interstage nodes now. Yeah, up and down are relative in space anyways. I'm going to do the same electrical solutions. So again, 4 of these OXSAT solar panels. We're going to tilt them at 45 degrees. Like so. Slide them in a little bit. Like that. We need 4 batteries. It's always weird with the... I guess that's what it's going to be. Oh, let's move these solar panels a bit. I can see that that's kind of goofy. Let's try that again. Why is that not... Okay, let's start this over. I mean, I should be able to center them on there. That's not 45 degrees. That's pretty close. That's 45 degrees. Okay. And then move them until they just touch up there. That's good. Then my 4 batteries. I don't like... Here, let's take this... Actually, no. Let's take this and rotate it. Oh, it's doing that. Let's take this and rotate it. Oh, that's gonna... No. Rotating the main probe body is a bad idea because at launch it's gonna be wacky. Okay. I didn't like the way the batteries were clipping into this structural piece. That's all that was about. That was me being pedantic. Again, let's try this with the solar panels. 45 degrees. There. Slide them up. I'm happy with that. Okay. Need to hide in some more science. Again, a double C seismic accelerometer. Remember, this is going to be landing in a different biome, and these experiments are biome specific. Hide that in there, and the there. And I don't know. I think this is looking okay. Another Communitron. We'll tuck that in here somewhere. I love little probes where you just jam everything in there. There's something I find just fun about that. Okay, let's tuck that way and then a little this way so it doesn't clip into that solar panel. There we go. And when you extend it, why am I having trouble finding? Because I'm not on the antenna, silly. There we go. Extend the antenna. I just want to make sure that extends without banging into anything. It does not. Retract. Okay. So, boomity boomity boom. That's got electricity covered. That's got transmission covered. That's got science covered. So I just got to put enough fuel on the bottom of this thing so that that's probably too much. Can't need much. Some more landing struts. And maybe a Terrier engine on the bottom? That's a lot. Oh, that's a lot. Here, let's fix this. That's there. This needs to go here. Yeah. So that is, according to, let's just make sure we agree here. 1,139 meters per second at delta V. What it needs is 1,890 to do everything I want it to do. So it's going to need more fuel. Okay, so we'll take that off. Take that off. Take that off. Take this on. Take this on. The main mod I have going here really is Kerbalism. I don't have a lot of part mods. Oh, I realize those micro landing struts really don't. Okay, we'll use the bigger ones. The bigger landing struts. There we go. That's better. And that's 1806. It's a little short, but remember when it goes to do the landing, I can figure this out. Because it's going to carry the whole... Is there anything else it needs? Lights. It needs lights. And we will put on, again, just navigation lights. This three-way symmetry seems to be the theme. And again, the blink on. I'll make them kind of an orangey color. That's good. Change the texture to white to match the tank. Do I want that tank? Yeah, I want the white tank. It's the dark. That just puts lines on it. So if I put this on dark, that looks okay. Now I'm getting into fiddle mode. Whenever I'm into fiddle mode, that's always a good sign that I'm coming towards the end here. I'll leave it the way it was. Okay, that's a lot of thrust. Can I get away with a smaller engine, like a little spark engine? Yeah, I think I can. If I take this, throw it away. Let's use the smaller engine. Smallest engine you can get away with, the better. And it will knock out a lot of this fuel because my delta V shot up with that. And keep in mind, by the time it's landing on the moon, it will be losing a lot of weight because the landing on the moon will be the last thing it's going to do. Yeah, I could have made a copy of just that first probe, but I don't know. I wanted to do something else. I just wanted to sort of have so that the whole carrier vehicle lands, and then that's what I decided to do. Might be more complicated than it needs to be, but that's okay. So, right now it's at 1,727 meters per second. I'm budgeting 1,890 meters per second, but a lot of it will be with this gone. So, how I can figure this out is I need, let's see, I got the numbers in front of me, but I should have added them up ahead of time. 700, oh, I'm backwards. 860 for the injection and 280 for the capture is 1140. So if I take out 1140 meters per second, which would leave this really ballparking it around 1550 or so. So 550. I can do math. So I take this down till it's about 550 meters per second left. Oh boy. That's not going to work. We'll have to call that close enough, but if I take this off, then this will eject. And now it has 804 left. I think that's going to be pretty close. I think this is going to work. Okay, put those interstage nodes back on. You know, this is the state in which it's going to be when it's going to do its landing. 804 meters per second, and I was actually erring on the side of caution, I think. He says with great confidence. There. Let's put this back. You know, why don't I err on the side of giving it more fuel? I mean, there's no reason to be. 1953. That should be good. That should be so... Here, a little bit less? No. Let's go with this. That's lots of fuel. That is lots of fuel. Start that in a retracted position. I'm thinking I got myself something that can get itself to the moon. I'm now into playing with stuff which maybe I shouldn't be doing. Maybe orange isn't such a bad idea. There we go. I think I got myself. So this is the true Munar 4. Let's save that. So the idea with this, yeah, overwrite the old one. Oh, the staging is a mess. Let's fix that up. And that, yep. Oh, now the fuel is normal. Okay, now I need more fuel. Glad I checked that. That should be good. Okay. And that can be dark. All right, so I think what I got now is something that should be capable of getting itself to the moon. Drop this guy, it lands in one biome, and then the rest of the vehicle lands in its own biome. Let's get a booster for it. So let's build this fairing. I need to come out a little bit. Like that. Clamshell deploy, 4 sides. That's my favorite setting. A little bit more on the force. A little more force. Okay, let's extend these legs. I'm just going to check. Save this. All I want to do is simulate the fairing separation. Make sure the fairing doesn't break any antennas or any of that kind of stuff. I am thinking, Dan asks, I would love to see some more Let's Do the Math. I was thinking of a Let's Do the Math. A thought has occurred to me. I'm not quite sure when I'll get around to doing it, but having to do with phase angles. That's what I'm thinking about. I think this thing needs more lights. It most certainly needs more lights. But all I wanted to check here is, does the fairing stage, okay, deploy? There we go, without breaking anything. I think that was fine. Let's terminate that simulation. Let's put some more lights on it. Yeah, I was thinking of a let's do the math, calculating phase angles to go for interplanetary transfers, where those numbers come from. Because I've been playing around with doing a Duna video, and I started to realize that I've never really talked about that. More lights. I'm going to use the little spotlights in here. This is what I'm going to do. Little spotlights right here. Because everything's improved with more lights. And if we pitch them in and rotate them a little bit. Well, that's the blink period. I do that every time. Why do I do that? Rotate. There we go. That's good enough. And then that will sort of, I hope, if I turn those lights on, kind of light up the inside here. Sure. All right, I think I can get rid of my checklist. I checked the fairing. Let's look at this fairing actually needs to be lower here. And let's look at a booster to get this thing to fly. And then I think actually I'm probably going to be calling the end of the stream on this one. Yeah, actually, you know what? I'm just looking at the time here. I'm getting so excited with my lander. But I'm thinking, I'm saving this, and I'm thinking for the start of the next stream on Thursday, what I'm going to be doing is putting a booster under this. It has a mass of about 2.2 tons. So I should have a booster here. 2.2 tons. Yes, this fella here. This has become a really good booster for me. That fella there should be able to lift it up comfortably. But I think that's going to have to be for next Thursday. So I hope that you enjoyed this stream. Next Thursday, I hope to be finishing off all this moon stuff by putting 3 probes down there on the surface, getting that moon probe strategy done, and then starting to think about getting Kerbals up there in space and starting to make this a little bit more Kerbal-centric. So right now, though, I'm going to thank everybody for turning in, or turning up. And I hope to see you again on Thursday. Thanks, everybody.